is Professor Christopher Dent. I am a professor here at Edge Hill University. I'm also the leader of something called SustainNet, which is a network community of over 100 people at Edge Hill University. And I'm also part of the Lancashire Climate Action Network, or LancsCAN. And this is a very exciting moment in history because it's the first time that we've had a LancsCAN promoted webinar, and it's the first joint LancsCAN SustainNet webinar that we are running as part of our new series for 2023-24. We also have Marcello Travati and Laura Maguire, who also look after the webinar series here at Edge Hill University. But this is a very much a Lancashire kind of scoped and beyond a kind of based webinar, and the focus of it as well. Now we've got Steve Rowe, who's going to be talking about mobilizing communities on climate action. So I'm going to hand over now to Steve to introduce himself. He's been a great asset to LancsCAN already, helping us develop really important parts of the website, which just went live this week. And so he's become a good friend already. Steve, over to you.
Thanks, Chris. I'll use those three most famous words in the English language now. I'll share my screen. Oops, I hope. Okay, can you all see that? I can only assume you can, as I can't hear anybody.
Yes. Yes, can see it fine, thanks.
Yes, that's good, Steve.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Just the odd, when you can't see anybody, just the odd word that comes in very useful. So yeah, so I'm going to talk a little bit about this morning about mobilizing communities for climate action, and how Koru, for whom I work, actually stumbled across this, and how we have actually developed our offering, which is called Climate Connect, to cater for not just the masses, which Climate Connect does cater for, but for individual communities and or groups of communities. And it's a very I have to say, from the research I've done, it's becoming a more and more interesting subject. For me, I'm a long time. My background, those are my three other colleagues, are all in sales. We've spent a lot of time on public engagement, and this is how we got to where we are. But I'll just go through that briefly in a minute or two. So the situation is right now is that there's a lot of local action taking place. A lot of it is uncoordinated, and I think things like LancsCAN, things like the Scottish Community Climate Action Network, some work that's going on the Humber, which I'll talk about briefly as well, are all things which are actually helping to bind this to this community-led activity together. And excuse me, and I'm going to explain how we help do that, because it's all right me having these nice big long words which sound really great, but what is it we do to actually help that happen? So Koru was born in about 2000. I wasn't there. I think I joined in 2003. But MD Chris Howells, who's actually on the line, he's been around since the initial start. And so a lot of our work was done in the first years or so on the sales front, and then as we got a bit older, a bit more jarred at banging hands on doors, trying to meet people, we actually stumbled across public engagement, which we actually all got to really enjoy. And most of the public engagement work we did was digital, and rather than meeting in drafty village halls and the like. In 2018, we got very, very involved in active travel. and did a great deal of work in the north, particularly across the northern metropolitan areas, in actually getting active travel up and running and being engaged by engaging the local population. It was built on a very, very successful example in the London Borough of Waltham Forest. We carried out our first climate engagement in 2019, which was a very rough and ready engagement for a Southern council. As we all know, 2020, the rules of the game changed entirely with COVID and lockdown. But I have to say, it was the most profitable time for our company because everything we did was digital. And that's what was the only way people could actually engage other people was through a digital platform. The end of 2021, we committed our future towards climate because we felt this is where we as individuals, and not necessarily as a company, we as individuals could make our own personal contribution. And as a company, we could make one too. So I set about this work early in 22, and what I wanted to do is learn as much about the practical elements of frustration, practical elements of climate change as I possibly could. But I found it incredibly difficult to find much information. It is scattered around all over the place. It is siloed by either industry or by public sector, particularly forgiven those public sector people who are here, is particularly bad at siloing things. But having said that, if you dig hard enough, you can find what it was. So born out of frustration, we developed a participatory platform called Climate Connect. And this covers all aspects of business, communities, the educational sector, individuals, and the public sector in all its guises. And that we make available to any organization that wants to use it, absolutely free of charge. It is our company's contribution towards climate change. And then this year, as I said, we started to understand more about the community side of things, more by accident than desire, because we could see lots and lots and lots of work going on between local authorities, for example, and with local industries, but nobody engaging the individual, particularly, and nobody really engaging these communities, which are all doing a fantastic job. So we have a view, basically, that the climate crisis is very much an all-win or no-win situation. By that, we need everybody to be involved in some way, shape, or form. And flowing out of that, we believe it's impossible to reach net zero without the support of individuals and communities. And I'll explain why that is so important in a minute or two. So what is a community? Well, there are communities all over the place there. What I've got here is, I think this is Harrods, which is a shop, but it will have its own community. It will have its own climate plan. There's a factory below that. There's the Houses of Parliament. There's a hospital. And then there are ordinary people. So the private sector, the public sector as a whole are building their plans to actually, how are they going to get to net zero? But a lot of the work that needs to be done needs to be done by local communities and individuals, which is a really, really big ask. So how do we see a community? We see it as something local. It could be a residents' association. It could be a housing estate. It could be a parish council. It could be a small town council. It could be a bunch of enthusiasts. It could be a club. It could be a variety of action groups, of which there are across the country, many, many of them. And what we're trying to do, of course, is to bind all those together in a specific area, to create a synergy, where the sum is greater than the individual parts. So here's the stark fact. I don't need to read that out. I'm sure you're quite capable of doing that yourselves. But it is quite an astonishing number, I think you'll find. And then you can look at this all you want. I won't spend too much time on it because I'm going to give a summary. The only one that I find really interesting on this is why Ribble Valley has got such a high per capita emissions. I know if that is Leyland, there used to be there are probably still a lot of factories around Leyland, and that may be the cause. But in some, oh, sorry, my apologies. Oops. Sorry, my apologies, I pressed the wrong button. So there are 2.277 million tons of emissions from houses, basically. Private motor vehicles account for just under half of the total vehicle emissions. But the total emissions across the county as of 2021 were 8.1 million tons, which is a huge amount of stuff to move. So the way that this appears to be panning out is that whilst government is setting some targets and moving them for their own benefit, in my opinion, and in the opinion of many other people, the people who are really carrying the banner on this are local authorities. They've got their climate action plans, and their focus, where it says is elsewhere. It is on organisations. It's not on communities, individuals. Local authorities don't have the authority to tell an individual or the community what to do, unless, of course, they're breaking the law. And the only way that they can really have impact. Sorry? Hello?
I think it was just someone sneezing, Steve.
All right. So I just heard something and I thought it was a challenge. But anyway, not to worry. The only way they can really influence things is through what I call mass behaviour change. This is where they introduce policies, which would have to be supported by government in any case, to allow people to do things that they would not normally do. So, for example, they could do what they've done in places like Germany and France, which is to have a rail season ticket, which costs £49 a month, which allows people, or to give, free bus travel in a specific area. Those big things they can do. Broadly speaking, though, they don't have enough resources to be able to reach all the individuals and all the communities, which is where the communities become really, really pivotal, because they are the sole way in which anyone can get to all the individuals in this in Lancashire or across the UK. Yeah, for the community's challenges, individual behaviour change is top of the list, really. What is it that we can do locally which cause people not to use their motor cars, or not to burn fossil fuels, or to reduce it? Where there's not a lot of funding money available for communities, unless, of course, you're doing some form of energy project. The net zero hubs across the UK are currently waiting for some money from His Majesty's government to do work on energy, whether that's usage prevention, or indeed establishing more and more solar-based local projects. Communities need to work together, they need to collaborate, and they need to focus. There's not a lot of point in having 17 different communities across Lancashire or anywhere all working on the same project in isolation. They need to pull out the best of the resource they can find and work it through. and for them, they will need, local communities will need additional resources because they won't have some of the climate expertise that they may need from time to time. And the resources are limited, and also they're all voluntaries, which makes it the challenge that so much bigger, but the outcome so much better. So how can Coro help the 1.5 million people in Lancashire? Just give a bit of background here before we go on. Is I bumped into Chris. I think it was just after your meeting in May. I think it's probably early June, and it was interesting when we first met that the way that Lanxcan was developing, the way Chris described it as developing, is very much in line with the way we are thinking as well. So that made it quite a good place to meet. There's some downsides on that, but they're not major. So we see mobilising communities as a process that does all these good things. It's really important. It's led by an advisory group or a leadership group, which is made up of people across sectors. And I think when you look at the Lanxcan leadership team, that is very much the case, and supported by a participatory internet-based service. This is where a place where people can go to find everything about what's going on with all the communities in their area, or in the Lanxcan area. It's called participatory because people can actually contribute to it, and we need people to contribute to it because they're the people who are actually doing the work at the coalface. So they're the people who actually need to be, telling other people what they're doing, when they're doing it, and what the outcomes are. It is fundamental for us to achieve net zero for that to happen. So this is my take on the advisory group. At least it provides vision. For example, what are we going to achieve by the end of 2024, for example? It's going to provide the stimulation and motivation to get people, actually involved in that. And the more people involved in the creation of the vision and the support plans that go with that, then the more motivated and
welcome.
Okay, sorry, that was another voice there I heard. So they obviously will need support, as I said earlier. They may need specialist climate expertise. They will undoubtedly at some point be able to provide some funding, which is a subject close to everybody's heart. We talked about planning, and guidance is all part of that package. And this was before Chris and I had a discussion. It has to be apolitical. I do not think it's right in the greater scheme of things that we have people with agendas which are not the same as the agendas of all other people involved. It needs to be one thing, which is to get to net zero as soon as we possibly can. So this is Climate Connect mobilising communities. It has all these facilities, and I'm going to show you some of these. So I'm not going to go through them now, because as I say here, seeing is believing. And it's not what you say a standard computer package. You get everything. It's not a one size fits all. What we've developed for Lanxcan is different from what we've developed over on the Humber, and it will be different from our total package as well. It takes elements that are required for a specific need. So critical success factors, in my view, about actually getting things really motoring. We need to be open and honest about how we've done. If we've created a solution to an issue and it hasn't worked for whatever reason, we need to understand that reason. Because what we don't want is people in Cornwall or in Scotland or in Wales doing exactly the same thing. It would just be derelict in our duties to do that. Sorry. Oh. Sorry. And this openness is key, and that's one of the things which we have, and I will say this honestly, struggle with Climate Connect. People seem unwilling to want to contribute, and it's not us that's just found it. We've worked with another organisation called My Society, who've done their own particular one for local government. There are two other local government ones, by the way, that are all suffering the same problem. A lot of the curation of material is coming from the owners rather than the people who are doing the work. Focus we've talked about, collaboration we've talked about. Celebration, we should celebrate every small success. Yeah. It sounds like it's a bit over the top. It's not having a party or anything. It's just, it's just saying we're pleased to have done this. That's a celebration. And then the next important thing is to replicate that, whatever that solution is, and replicate it in a way that it affects local communities, because not everything will be the same. So the benefits of doing it this way, I think that because it's being done by people, those people are closer to the problem. I can hear myself now. And they're closer to the solution. They're not having a plan foisted on them for their own group of organisation, like Lancs can, or like individual communities. By working together, we can get the maximum use of resource. And so you get the synergy. We used to call it 1 + 1 = 3, but basically where the sum is greater than the sum of an outcome is greater than the sum of the individual parts. It will certainly help us reduce cost, and cost in this context is nearly always resource, but it will help increase pace. It will have a snowball effect. As you get more successful, you become more successful. That is just how it is. The system also allows you to issue clearer, consistent messages. There's no central reinforcements, rather than 3 importance, because it will all be done through a single interface in the Mobilising Communities platform. And I'd say this, it's a very cost-effective way of actually pulling things together. So here are a few examples. I'm going to rush through this. The Low Carbon Hub is probably the most successful community energy organisation in the country, based in Oxfordshire, doing lots and lots of projects. And then closer to home, Rossendale Energy. There's also energy in Preston, energy organisation in Preston and in Morecambe. And then at the other end, going from energy to food. I love this idea of having food networks. Whilst it's currently based in the north of the county, then north of Lancashire and Lancaster Way in Preston, there's no reason why it could not, in my opinion, there's no reason why it could not either be replicated or expanded outside of that. The Scottish Communities Climate Action Network is a bit like Lancs can, but very much more advanced. They've been going for lots of years. It encourages membership from individuals as well as communities, which is great. It has some very good material. They have a monthly member of the a competition for a monthly member of the monthly member of the month, who've done something really great. Once again, a form of celebration. And they also have this thing called 1,000 Stories, which are piles and piles of things that people have done. So there's lots of stuff to learn from them. This was a secret, and we stumbled over it about 4 weeks ago. It's classic. Chesterfield, this is just an example. Interestingly enough, Derbyshire has 18 repair cafes. They fix anything from push bikes to re-energizing previously loved clothing. And from what I can find, the organisation that runs that sort of oversees these repair cafes do operate in Lancashire, but there are only 4 that I could find when I looked them up. In our nature, we were involved when this started. In fact, Brian Sellers, who's not on the line today because he's tied up on doing something else, he and I got involved with Manchester City Council and the Manchester City Council Climate Change Agency to actually set up a pilot for 4 individual districts within the city. It was funded by, I think, £1 million worth of lottery funding initially. After the first year they've now got 3 years funding, and their scope is going from just the city, just the 4 or 5 districts in the city where they started, to all the districts in the city. And there are 36, I think, 36 districts in the city of Manchester. A great example. Once again, something to learn from, especially as it's just around the corner from Edge Hill. The Bat Foundation, we've been involved, Cora's been involved with this in 2 senses. One is we support it actively through promotional work, and one of our members is very involved with the practical side of PATT, which is Plant a Tree Today. And the final one is the Creative and Cultural Organisation in Hull. Sounds a bit odd, but it is actually a climate, also a climate network. It and us and 2 of the councils are co-creating a thing called the Humber Eco Fest, which starts on Sunday, if that's the 22nd, which it is. Or is it Saturday? The date is. It starts on the 22nd, and they currently have over 50 events planned. It is a celebration of success across the Humber, primarily north of the Humber. Varying different groups are putting on events for people to visit, either physically or online. And the way that we're working with the councils is to make this the form of the basis of what is Lancs Can, is to pull all these people together so that we can, and the councils can work with them in a cooperative manner. And then I thought I'd just put this one up. This is a little note I put on Climate Connect yesterday, which was announced in the website launch, and also to tell people about all the super case studies you've got on your website. And to summarize, I love this slide because it's so representative of the need. So if we change that to 1.5 million people truly their action can make a difference, then we will do something really great. Okay, thanks. I'm going to stop talking now. Just going to take a couple of seconds just to reset my screen, and I'll start to show you a little bit about what mobilizing communities can look like in the context of the whole model, and then what we've done and how we've integrated it into the Lancs Can website. Before we do that, are there any questions?
If you've got a question for Steve, please raise your hand on the raise hand icon on the top of your page. It should be the 3rd one along, depending on what browser you're using, or just call out if you can't do that. We've got 32 people in the audience, which is great, and I'm sure there's a question from someone.
Perhaps I could ask them a question then, Chris, actually. They seem to be very shy. I'm not quite so shy as they are. Do you think what I've described is a suitable way to proceed? I'm not going to say the right way because I don't think anybody knows the right way, to be honest. But do people believe this is a good way to go?
I'm going to make a comment, Steve, as there is no one who's put forward a question. And I think for me, what was really interesting was how you are surveying or mapping what other communities, a bit like what we're trying to do with the Lancashire Climate Action Network, are doing across the country, and whether there's been any, shall we say, programmatic research done by academics or research institutes on these kind of community-driven local area climate action endeavours.
I've not come across any, but that's not to say say that there isn't. One of the things when we put together, or when we first got involved, what we said we'd do is we would keep away from two subjects, basically. One is we would not have any doom and gloom stories. Yeah. So, you know, the world is not going to come to an end in 2050. Yeah. That sort of story. And that we would try to, this is going to sound terrible talking to a university professor, we try and avoid academic research. But I do believe in this case that some research would help. Yeah. If people could go around and find these organizations, and there are lots of, and they're incredibly, one of the problems is they're incredibly fragmented. Yeah. And very few are being pulled together.
It's almost like, sorry, Steve, go on.
I know that Birmingham City Council were trying to pull their communities together, but because they're bankrupt basically, so they can't spend anything. You're doing it, and so our colleagues on the Humber are doing it. I think town and local councils can do a lot here. Yeah, not local, not big local but town and parish councils can do a lot here, pulling together, you know, the things that go on in their area, and then binding all the parish council or all the town councils in a specific area together. But it could do with some research. A lot of people say that, you know, we can't get there without the help of communities. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's all
my idea with the research would be very kind of map based. Basically, you try to map where these things are going on across the whole of the United Kingdom. Anyway, I'll now let my very good friend and colleague Claire Blennerhassett ask a question. She has politely got her hand raised. Claire.
Thank you. I'm going to take it down before I forget to do that as well, because often it looks like I'm asking multiple questions. And yeah, I think it's a really interesting point in looking at this map, and I'm wondering about the role of AI and whether that could support and reduce the amount of burden while doing a bit of research alongside an institution. I don't know whether you've thought about
that. I'm not very well qualified to answer that question, Claire, to be honest. You know, what I know about AI, you could put on the back of a stamp and leave room for lots of other diatribes. So I think that I'm pretty sure it must have a role. But I honestly don't know. Yeah, it's just an instinct that tells me it can be of help.
If I can add that,
if you'd like to do some work on it for us, Claire, I'd be really grateful.
Oh, I'd love to help you out, but I'm a bit of a technophobe, so I think that there are people in the sustain net academics who have that experience, and it could be that other academics like myself, so my area of expertise is nutrition, so we could generate some of the search terms possibly in combination, so using a combination of different academics, but the IT savvy people will do all of the AI bits and bobs.
And including, you said that we do have members of SustainNet and actually also Langscan do this. In fact, there are two people on in this webinar who are maybe qualified. There's Marcello and Nonzo from our computer science department. Marcello and Nonzo, do you have any comments to make on this very important issue of AI?
I think it would have a lot of potential, and especially considering that there is a lot of hype around AI. But it has some useful tools that could be applied to help and speed up the process.
Thank you, Marcello. Any
sorry to
Yes, Claire,
just
go
interrupt.
ahead.
I'm just wondering, given the kind of commitments and possibly waiting for a funding opportunity for something like this might be an issue, but wondering whether there's possibility of student projects that we can maybe pair people up. I don't know, is there in the computer some dissertations or project works or assessments that might lend
Oh yeah,
themselves nicely
absolutely.
to this?
So it could be third-year students, but it could be also dissertations on master's level, but it could also be a PhD.
Just to add to
It
that
is
as
some-
well, LancsCan is, sorry, Steve, just to add that LancsCan is has not just got Edgehill University involved. We're involved with all three Lancashire universities. So Lancaster and also University of Central Lancashire, or UCLan, are also involved in we're going to do with LancsCan. So they may have something to say here. They're our counterparts in those two other universities. Steve, sorry, over to you.
Okay, all I was going to say was that we've used students before to do research on this. We used them a couple of years ago. Well, more than I always say a couple of years ago. They're probably nearly 20 years ago. But we used some students from De Montfort in Leicester, De Montfort University in Leicester, to understand why training failed to sustain, which was a very interesting piece of work. I think we've used them in another room as well, but maybe not in my bailiwick. Okay, so what I'm going to do now.
I have a question though. Fiona would like to ask a question, Steve. Is that okay?
Yeah, of course, yes.
Fiona's works in our graduate school here at Edgehill University and does other stuff for SustainNet. Fiona.
Thank you. Very brief comment, I suppose. We have some research internships for marginalised students, and they're linked to SustainNet. But I do wonder this year whether we look at, rather than students doing research in the university, doing it more with partners, and perhaps LancsCan might be quite a nice vehicle for that.
Yes, that's a good idea, Fiona. I think we may have talked about that before. We've got, haven't we, Steve? At the moment, at least 60 organisations in LancsCan, and we're going to invite a whole load more to join, including those who are not part of LancsCan, who are part of this webinar. If you haven't joined us, I put a link actually to the top of the chat box, so please get in contact with us. But Steve.
Okay, so what I'll just do now, I'm just going to take you through the bare bones of mobilising communities, the actual interactive part of the system, and just to show you what it contains. And then what I'll do is I'll just show you what we've done on Climate Connect, because that's really quite exciting in terms of volume of information, but also which is accessible from the LancsCan website as well, which is really good. So, right, we go back to these three famous ones. Okay, so I assume you can all see that. I'm going to make that assumption at least.
Yes,
so,
Steve.
Yeah, mobilising communities is just a subset. In fact, it's not a subset. It is a superset of what we do in the whole Climate Connect scenario, and it's got eight major elements at the moment. Although I've got another two musing around the back of my head, which I may include when I've done some more work on it and probably spoken to Chris and a few other people. So it has its own news feed. And that news feed can be turned into emails. They can be everyone who's registered on a mobilising communities section of the website can actually be emailed directly. So this allows you to keep the messaging straight, which is what I was talking about, because messaging does get bent. It has the ability to do local digital consultation. So for example, if an organisation around wherever wanted to implement or was planning to implement a community solar farm, for example, it could use the consultation tool within within mobilising communities to actually get people's views and feedback on that, and obviously to refine their plan if need be. It has what I think is probably the most important thing, which is a collaboration zone. What this does is it allows people who are involved in a specific project to work together online, either using our online online meetings and workshop facility, or using Teams or whatever. But basically to record stuff in their own project area, which is great because it will also allow other people to see what's going on if there are people stumbling across a similar sort of thing. To me, collaboration is key, absolutely key, because there's not enough people to go around, so working together is vital. There's this section here, which is the faster we learn, the faster we will get to net zero. This is about capturing experiences, good and bad. Clearly, successes are great to have, but unfortunately, generally, we tend to lose more. We tend to learn more from errors than we do from successes, which is not great. We have a map in our particular service, so we can map communities and what they're doing onto a digital map. Actually, we haven't got this in Lankscan because there was already Chris had already developed a facility, so we're not in the business of reinventing those sort of wheels. There is a place where you can start your networking off. So, if you've got a question about something, has anybody ever tried to install lamppost chargers for EVs, for example? You can start to create by getting an answer, even if it's no, but I'd like to know more about it type thing. You can start the ability to start to network with people. And the other one is volunteering. This is questions, answers, and volunteering is on the Lankscan section. This is a place where people can volunteer, or people can search for volunteer jobs. It's very powerful because it puts everything in one place. There are across Lancashire various different volunteering systems, some allied to particular communities. That's fine. But if you can get things in one place, then it's easier for people to find the jobs or to volunteer itself. Then on top of that, the main Climate Connect site is this one here on the left of the screen. We've got hundreds of ideas out that people, their friends and families can contribute to the achievement of net zero. If I was to say one thing which I think would be valuable for every individual to do, would be to register for the Which website. That's the Which magazine website. It's fantastic. Once a month they send out a newsletter which we publish, but absolutely full of good stuff, and well worth the 15 minutes it takes to read it. We have a section on what other communities have done, so it's a place to start looking to see if you can find anything that. As I say, that's where I placed your launch document yesterday. Young people are fundamental to the achievement of net zero because they're the ones it's going to affect most. It's not going to affect me. I should be long departed by the time 2050 comes around, or even 2040 for that matter. And that's not being negative. That's being pretty factual. There's lots of activity going on in schools and colleges. And whilst there are some schools involved in Lankscan, I think there's the capability to get a lot more, because that is where you can do small little projects that people can talk about and succeed with. And they're only about creating green spaces or having growing boxes, agricultural boxes to grow salads or vegetables or whatever. We have an insight section, and this is where we put anything that is insightful, i.e. that it will help people learn. Some of it is really off the wall stuff, you know, but it's useful to see what other people are thinking about in the context of climate change. And I got some very interesting things about, you know, there's a company in Finland that's developed a battery out of sand that doesn't need any lithium, which is I'm not sure how practical it is yet, but knowing the Finns, it will be there. It will be there. And there's lots and lots of other things. There's a standard search facility which is here, and it's very simple to use. I can just type in this, for example. It'll pull up anything that's got anything to do with communities. Yeah. So that's just an example. Just checking the time here. And then this is what we've got for Lancscan. Very much the same sort of layout, but it's got online meetings and workshops, volunteering forum, collaboration zone, and ask a question. I'm sure over time there'll be needs arise. So if any members find any needs they'd like to have addressed, then we can certainly have a look at them. And it'd be better the more we get from the shop floor, if you like, from the people who are actually doing the work, the better quality the site will become, because it would be for you rather than for us trying to provide a tool which we believe to be right but may not be 100% so. And I think that's all I want to say, really.
Hey, Steve, thank you very much. We still have 28 people in the house, so to speak.
Yeah.
So again, another opportunity for people to ask Steve any questions or make any points they'd like to make.
Can I go?
Yes, Nonzo,
okay.
please.
Hi, Chris.
Nonzo's from Mitchell. Yeah.
Thank you, Steve. Thank you.
From where? Sorry.
Nonzo is my colleague. He's a senior lecturer in computer science at Edge Hill, and he co-leads our research team for SustainNet here at Edge Hill.
Hello, Steve. Thank you for the presentation. I've not got a question for you. It's more related to what you mentioned earlier about using needing help from students. I just thought that if you can tell us the pain points, the areas that you would like to use technology to improve what you're doing, because I can see what you're doing there, and the website is clear. We can get a lot of information from there. If there are things that you think you can use our knowledge to expand your what you're doing, if we put it together, maybe we'll be able to find students, projects that can, we work together and find how we can get that information down to you to improve what you're doing. So it's not a question, it's a suggestion of how we can help to improve what you're doing.
Would that be specifically related to IT or a broader base, Nonso?
Yeah. From my point of view, it will be one related to IT, but I'm thinking there might be other collaboration there once the pain point is clear to us. Chris will tell you more about this because we have expertise in different areas. So we might put heads together to find a solution and then see who will deliver the project for you.
Okay, I think I understand. Yeah.
So we could have a follow-up conversation between you both.
Yeah, we could do. I think that from just the discussion we've had this morning, I'm sure there's probably many more as well. But I think this research would be a great thing for the students to do. and we're talking to the lady before, around these climate networks. I think that'd be really, really useful. But also to understand, you know, we use a platform for Climate Connect and Mobilising Community and LancsCan. But that community, it's a fabulous platform. We love it. But I'm sure there are other things which are developing, which we could use more and more. I haven't got, apart from AI, which is the thing which sort of sparked this discussion off. But I'm sure there's other uses of technology for us to understand what people are doing and thinking and that sort of thing. I just need to get my mind around it, because my thinking is all honed around the tools we use as opposed to the ones that think. So yeah.
Thank you, Steve and Nonso. I think we'll have a follow-up email. I'll introduce you to each other and bring one or two maybe other people in who I think could be useful for this. So thank you very much for that point, Nonso. Very helpful. I've got Kate now of Horsley from Lancashire County Council and a LancsCan member of the leadership team. Kate, over to you. Hello there.
Apologies, Michael, doing that again. It was really interesting, thank you. I'm just really interested to understand, and maybe I missed it, I did have to put the kettle on, I've got to say, but about the link between this website and the LancsCan website. Sorry about that.
Yeah, no, that's okay. I didn't actually cover it very well. The LancsCan website has got in specifically the collaboration zone, yeah, and the volunteering. But it also has in the resources section, yeah, it gives you access to the whole of Climate Connect. So it's all embedded in there.
Right,
yeah.
I thought that was the case, but I just wanted to be clear so that I fully understood it. It looks like a fabulous resource.
Yeah, it would. If Chris and I had met 3 months earlier, it would have been fantastic. I only found out about, this is the problem. I found out about LancsCan, yeah, in a Twitter comment from the Northwest Net Zero Hub, because they posted you were looking for new communities and this, and I thought I need to get involved here somehow, if only just to have discussions. And I think that's the nature. I think that's the entire nature of the problem, really, is finding these things, which is why this research would be so. This research into where these networks are and if they exist, yeah, or how they can be created, yeah, would be really, really powerful. So if you had a, you know, I see LancsCan as a network of networks, yeah, and a network of communities, whereas there could be networks of networks, yeah, where you could scale up some of this work, yeah, and get much better output and much better results. Yeah, in theory, I have to say that in theory.
Thank you, Kate. Would you want to come back on that one? Or
no, I agree. I think you're absolutely right. I think we've done a little bit of work, haven't we, to try and make sure that we've covered as many of the organisations that we know of that are out there already. But sharing the website more freely, I think, will enable us to find other groups that will be interested. I'll certainly be sharing it with my team to make sure that everyone that works in the community gets the opportunity to hear about it. There might be organisations that are doing something tangentially related to this, but that info will still be really helpful.
Yeah.
thank you. I just was replying to a message, and we got Jed here, who's a SustainNet partner, and also Mike. So Jed, oh no, so Mike, you're first. Sorry, in the order of things. Mike.
Right, thank you. Yeah, I just got a bit of a question. I mean, the sort of things that people can do themselves, a lot of it is small stuff, but we've got to remember that small stuff is cumulative. So if you can get millions of people to do it, it actually turns into big stuff. But more to the point, the big stuff so often depends on governments in terms of funding and policy and so on. And I mean, one of the things that springs to mind here is the the standard or quality of our national grid, which is completely incapable of all the renewables that we need to put onto it. So in terms of trying to get people working collaboratively together, didn't do that very well, politics is really a numbers game. And are you willing or able to try and influence government, or do you have any aspirations to do so? Even though you said you don't want to be political, but you don't have to be political. It just needs the numbers to try and force something through.
Yeah. I think it's a fair comment, Mike. You know, I think that there's. I don't think government has actually got a clue what's going on at the grassroots level, fundamentally. At probably other levels as well, but anyway, that's political. And I think that if they were to become aware of it, they might divert some funds towards it, which is probably the biggest need of all of everything. So I think I can find a way to do that. And if not this government, then the next one will probably be more listening. We're currently saying it will, but who knows what's going to happen then. But
yeah. Thank you, Steve. I'm aware we got two more people who've got. Sorry, Mike. Thank you. We got two more people who'd like to ask questions. Jed, you're next, and then it's Stuart.
Thanks,
Jed.
Chris. Steve, thanks for an excellent presentation. I'm.
Thank you.
Yeah, I live in St Helens, although I work across the Archdiocese for an international development charity called CAFOD. I'm interested personally in projects which are sustainability focused in the St Helens or wider Merseyside area. Do you know how I can find out where those things are, or maybe they don't exist, but perhaps there will be some?
I to be quite honest, Jed, I'd start using Google.
just that,
which you
yeah.
probably have done.
Yeah.
Other than that, I don't know. Maybe contact the town. I think there are parish councils and town council, certainly parish councils in what was Merseyside. I know it's not Merseyside anymore. Liverpool City Region. Maybe the City Region climate people have some ideas on that. Yeah.
Thanks, Steve. I'll leave you in peace because there's another question.
Yeah.
We're running out of time.
Quickly following on,
you.
Jed. Jed, if you email me, I've got contacts at St Helens and Knowsley and also Liverpool City. So if you contact me, I'll maybe help you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Stuart, over to you. Very pleased to meet you. I don't think we've met before.
No, so I'm I won't get political, I'm a Conservative County Councillor from Lancashire. And just introduce myself. Brilliant presentation, it was very good. I'm also a Roman Catholic minister in the church, so I was happy to hear about CAFOD. Obviously, in terms of St Helens, it's Sefton, and obviously it's Steve Rodden, the mayor there. So I'm sure somebody will know something about the things, won't they, and how we can help out there. But I think really in terms of the climate, it's got to be sustainable, it's got to be managed cost effective. We need to be working in partnership about solar, nuclear fusion. We live in an island. Why haven't we got, sea power? We really need to start. It's an emergency. We need to get on with it. If the French can't do it and the Chinese can't do it, then, we can, we've got wind. So because we've been to a presentation last week in Morecambe Bay, and they're building some wind turbines, and they were saying, they're going to be here, but then their sort of generator, they have to build something in one of my division to sort of house the, so there's planning about that. But we need to work together, in terms of funding, in terms of ideas, and really all the councils will be working together to try and sort it out. We've got so much natural resources that I know it's baby steps, but the earth can't wait really any longer. So I think it's been a brilliant presentation. We're all on the side of the consumer, the business. We're all on the side of the saving the climate. And I think it's fantastic what you're doing, and I think it's really good. And I think we just need to keep banging it, and if the next government, hopefully, will be as it is. But obviously, if it's a new government, it still needs to be the same. We still need to keep banging the drum so they don't forget about the environment. So that's just what I wanted to say.
Thank you very much. I got a comment on that, but let's give Steve a go first.
I think that it's one of these things is that I think you use the term baby steps, Stuart, and I think that's the right thing to do, because there ain't going to be in the short term funding for giant steps. Yeah. And going back to the point someone else made, Mike made about this, lots and lots of small successes give you massive successes. So finding a way to influence, once again, it comes back to influencing government about how they can make, seed corn or grub stake money available, for local collaborations, say. So maybe Lancashire County Council with one of the big energy providers, running a pilot to do such and such. I think that's a good way to do it. And I think once again it's about getting this message through to government that it's not all about hydrogen and it's not all about carbon containment, or burying it in the sea. It's actually about little things which will make a massive difference. So yeah, that's my view.
Thank you.
Not
I
a
just
very
would like,
coherent one, I have to say.
I'd just like to add that I work on energy a lot, Stuart, and I mean, obviously it's a big theme. What we got in LancsCan is a series of different climate action themes and leads on each of those themes. So not just energy, but transport, mobility, nature, biodiversity, wildlife, food, and so on, climate activism. What we're trying to do in LancsCan, because we actually have 7 councils who are represented within LancsCan, is to be like a bridge between the community groups in Lancashire and the 15 councils of Lancashire, which are actually trying to come together with a devolution plan around the Lancashire 2050 plan, of which the climate and environment priorities, plus other priorities that we can help on, are going to be quite prominent, I think, going forward. We've got a regular dialogue, LancsCan, with the climate officers group of the Lancashire councils. So we are trying to work alongside the councils in trying to support what they're doing, provide new ideas, mobilise community action and efforts, and the voice of the growing membership of LancsCan. So yeah, that's very much, I think, in you framed up what we're trying to do actually in LancsCan. So, well, I think we've run out of time. We've actually got 4 minutes over. We've had a really great number. We've had over 30 people participate in this webinar. Steve, thank you. That was a fantastic way to kick off the LancsCan webinar series and SustainNet's 2023-24 webinar series. Thank you very much indeed. For the benefit of everyone, we've recorded this webinar. Steve's also going to give us a PDF format of his slides that will be also downloadable on the same web page that you logged on to this webinar. So that will be uploaded probably next week. So thank you very much indeed. It's been great having so many of you here, and just a little round of applause. Thank you for Steve. Top class.
Thank you. Thank you.
High standard to follow now. We've actually got another webinar, SustainNet LancsCan webinar in November. I think it's on the 17th, where Anne Chapman is going to be talking about the Morecambe Bay Community Renewables Project. She's also part of LancsCan. There'll be more communications on that. If you want to know anything else, then please email me. I've given links on LancsCan, SustainNet, Koru in the top of the chat box. So thank you. Go well, and I hope to see you again soon.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Take care. Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye.